Nancy Pine is a leading expert on China, having traveled there more than 30 times. She's also a retired tenured professor from Mount St. Mary's University. On one of her trips to China, she met a remarkable man named An Wei, and she put his story in a book called One in a Billion, One Man's Remarkable Journey Through Modern-Day China. So who is An Wei, and why did you feel like you needed to write a book about his life?
One in a Billion is about one stubborn, hardworking man, An Wei, who grew up in a very poor village in the middle of China. His first year of elementary school was the same year that the People's Republic of China began. And as a result, he has gone through all the ups and downs of China's development since 1949. All of its accomplishments, all of its disappointments, and all of its disasters. As a child, he grew up in this farming village. He learned to be a farmer. His parents were peasants. He then went to college when he was 20 years old in a city, having never been to a city before in his life. He was a very good student. He became a student leader. He learned English very well. And the last week of classes, as he waited for his graduation certificate, the Cultural Revolution began. For him, the first 2 years were horror because he had been a student leader and the Red Guards went after anyone who was a leader or a good student. But he survived the Cultural Revolution, all 10 years of it, and then as an adult he became a very good interpreter and interpreted for world leaders, including Jimmy Carter.
Why did you feel compelled to tell his story?
First, of course, he's a very interesting person. He's done lots of very interesting things. He was hard driving. He wanted to accomplish a lot, and he did. Underneath that, though, as I interviewed him more and more over 10 years, I realized that something that was really important and was that he was a farmer, and he carried that knowledge of being a farmer into his adult life, although he worked in urban areas and bureaucracies.
So what does An Wei's story reveal about modern-day China?
People who have read it are telling me that they've learned a lot about China, both those people who have spent a lot of time in China and also those who have never been there. I think that's because there are a lot of details in the book. Both An Wei and I tried very hard to dig out the details of a lot of different parts of his life. And so there are plenty of details about living in the village, about what they ate, about what they wore, about some of the great things that they did in spite of all their poverty. And also, we dug deeply into the details of developing China.
What personal connections do you have to An Wei's story?
I believe it's the rural connection that's the strongest. I grew up in a log cabin in the middle of the woods of northern New Jersey, and he grew up in the middle of China. His family was, of course, enormously poor and actually fighting starvation the whole time, and our family was just poor. But that connection is pretty strong and sometimes very subtle.
So what personal traits did An Wei have that allowed him to survive such dangerous times?
I think it was determination and stubbornness. He carried through on things that other people would have given up on a long time before. And he accomplished a great deal that way. But of course, determination and stubbornness can also get you in a lot of trouble if you go too far. And the most dangerous times for him were the first 2 years of the Cultural Revolution, when he was under attack all the time by the Red Guard. They wanted to go after him. They drove many people like him to suicide. They killed many people. And so he had to be very, very careful.
So what advice would An Wei give to this younger generation of Chinese?
I think first he'd encourage them to continue learning English. They have been learning it since they were in the 3rd grade, as has everyone in China. He feels that it's very important for them to actually learn another language so that it gives them a real view of the world beyond China. But more fundamental is that he would encourage them to set their goals, how to be a good person, what they're going to do to make the world a better place, and to hang on to those values no matter what. So there will be times when in China they won't be able to talk about those values. They'll have to keep them quiet, and other times they will, but they'll have to learn when it's safe to do that and when they just need to be quiet.